I got super excited when you texted me and you were like, fuck, basically like F fear. And I was like, what's going on?
Yeah, it's just I don't know, when you come across an area in your life where you struggle and then you put into perspective just how fear is the reason why you're struggling with what you're struggling with, it becomes really frustrating. And like for me this week, and I made the goal on our last podcast of, of just complimenting one person. And it's crazy how difficult that is for me. I don't know the whole reasons of why that is who I am. Maybe it is who I am. Maybe it's how I was raised. But just my social aspect is it's crazy. And it's not like I could talk to people. Like I'm not horrible at talking to people. But no, just putting into perspective, I wanted to compliment this one person at the gym because I noticed them working out for a while and they do some pretty awesome workouts, and I wanted to meet my goal of complimenting someone in the gym. And it's just the amount of doubts that enter your head just to do one thing. It's just absolutely absurd. And so, like, I guess normally, as you would pursue something like that, you wouldn't think like how I was thinking. But, based on our last podcast and reading the book Outwitting the Devil and conceptualizing fear, like, it's all coming in my head. I'm like, all this fear, like I'm doubting is like, oh, they're too busy with their workout,
Hmm.
or like they don't want to talk to me, or like and literally almost every step they take, every movement they make is creating a doubt in your head of why you shouldn't do what you're gonna do. And I mean, this could apply to anything. And so it just got to the point in my head, I was like, dude, this is insane how much fear can control someone. And it was stopping me from what I wanted to do, essentially stopping me from who I wanted to become. And it came to the point, it's just, dude, it's just, you gotta have more faith than fear, and you just gotta do it. And I realize it's like anything in life when you're starting to do anything. I mean, I wanna be better socially, right? And I wanna create a better social aspect, have a better influence. And there's so many people that talk about tips and tricks to do so. But I think it's like anything in life. Like if I were to teach you how to make music, I'm not going to say, okay, so you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to do this. Like when you're starting, right? I got to tell you, get the program and start playing around with it. That's what I'm going to tell you to start. And it's the same thing like me pursuing this. It's like, dude, you may go and I think you said it last week. Like sometimes you may say something and the guy may think you're weird or something, or the person in the gym, right? If you're
Hmm.
complimenting them. But who cares? I mean,
Yeah.
especially with me trying to break this barrier. I mean, just go and say something like compliment that person, say how, and you just gotta break it. And just like any other thing you can progress in life, is it will improve as you pursue it and as you
Mhm.
increase it. And so I was so happy to finally kind of break that fear, but it was just absolutely absurd. Like when you realize how you're not really in control, that's what really frustrated me, is just how I want to achieve something, but the fears just have so much control over me. They were limiting me on what I can do. And so I just had to have more faith. Just like, I'm going to talk to that person. Like, I'm going to do it, and then just do it, and let it, let it win over there.
Hmm. The more you think about something that you're afraid to do, the less you'll want to do the thing. Because, like, you'll psych yourself out, dude, every single time. And it even goes down to, like, little fucking things. Like, the more you think about it. And that's why I think we talked about it once, like, the 5 seconds of action. Like, you got to take action really quick. The moment you think about doing a thing, you got 5 seconds of motivation, and then that motivation starts dwindling. So if you don't take action, if you don't just get up and do the fucking thing within the 5 seconds that you, like, thought about it, like, I want to compliment this person. If you act within the 5 seconds, the fear's not really there. Like the fear starts to accumulate and collect after those 5 seconds. So you think about it, I should go compliment this person. And give yourself some time, like, they're kind of, and then the fear starts happening, and like the things start coming in, like, oh, they're in the middle of their set, or they're I don't want to bother them. Like, oh, I don't. And then after that 5 seconds, the motivation goes away. But if you just start walking, the moment you think it, like, I want to compliment this person, I want to improve their life or make them smile one way, and you just do it, the confidence stays there, the fear is not there, and the moment you get up and start walking, you're committed. Okay, so the fear, like, it can try to leech in, but the moment you start moving, what was my philosophy on this? Is um, action is the catalyst between motivation and momentum. Like, you gain momentum in life after motivation if you let the catalyst of action take place within 5 seconds. So say you have the thought, I want to improve, I want to like make them smile, whatever. You receive the motivation. You have to take action within those 5 seconds to gain that momentum. So if you're laying down and you're like, I should probably go to the gym, I should probably work out today, and you're just laying there, you start to lose motivation to go to the gym. But if you say you watch a video and it's like super motivating, like, yeah, fuck, I want to go to the gym, after you have this thought, like, I kind of want to work out. If you get up within those 5 seconds of having that thought, if you just get out of bed and you start walking over to your like blender bottle or whatever, you're going to end up going and working out. Whereas if you take the time to think about it, you have a higher chance of not doing the fucking thing. And so I think it just comes down to that like 5 second rule. Like, just jump into action within 5 seconds, and that fear won't accumulate. It won't build up and create this like wall of bullshit that's just made up. It's just made up shit that we've thrown in the way. And it's crazy.
It reminds me of like the biggest comparison I can make to that is I remember cliff diving for the first time and cliff jumping. And it's just, that's where I really learned that lesson, is the longer you sit up there, the less likely you are to do it. And it was cool my first time doing it because there's a bunch of us, right? And there's this one guy's just like, you just gotta do it. And he just jumps and goes, right? And then I'm like, okay, and jumps and goes. But then there would be people that are like, yeah, I'm gonna do it. And then they're like, maybe not. But the longer they stood up there, the less likely they were to do it. It turned from I'm gonna do it to maybe not, like I don't think so, and I'm not gonna do it. And the longer they sat there, and so it's the same kind of concept, is you gotta go and you gotta do it. And it just reminds me of the concept in the book. It says in Outwitting the Devil, it says you gotta realize the difference between caution and fear. They're completely separate things, because caution exists for good reasons, but fear exists for no good reason, right? And so comparing it to cliff jumping, I mean, the guy before you jumped, I mean, there's no rocks in the area, it's a safe height. I mean, that's caution. You're good. Go. Why are you fearing? Why are you doubting? It's perfectly safe. There's nothing wrong with it. There's no reason to fear, no reason to doubt. And it's the same thing, like, wanting to maybe go to the gym. It's just there's no reason to fear, there's no reason to doubt, because it's a good action, whether you go there and do anything. I mean, obviously the fear is going to tell you, is like, people are going to look at you. Maybe you should do something else that's going to be better for you, or just, I don't know. It's just, the longer you sit, you just got to go. And so it all comes down to I've been working on writing a book for the longest time, and it'll come one day. But my whole idea that I'm basing the book off of is ideas become actions, and rear up consequences, essentially. And now, after reading Outwitting the Devil and realizing the power of fear and faith, it transformed my ideas, and I'm gonna have to implement that to my book. And so I have it written down here. I put faith as the force which pulls belief towards attainment, and faith transforms into ideas transform into actions, and actions yield consequences. And it's the same thing with fear. Fear is the force which pulls doubts away from attainment. Fear transforms into ideas transform into actions, and actions yield consequences. So the whole concept behind it is, it's a train, and it's going to take you. You just got to choose which one you want to take you. Like, when it comes to me and I wanted to talk to a person in the gym, I mean, which one was I gonna let control me? You know, was I gonna let sit back and let? I mean, the action of inaction is most likely fear,
Mhm.
and it's gonna take you in the direction away from your goals because I'm not acting on that which I want to. You know, it goes on the whole concept of drifting, right? If your mind's not occupied with something, it will be occupied with the opposite of what you want it to be. And so you got to
Mm.
occupy it with something. And so that's why you got to choose faith. I'm going to do this and do it and then go. And then it'll just a downhill turn from there, either way you take it.
It's so your action to consequences. I like it. The first one, we're talking about faith, the very end. So at the end result, there's always consequences. And I know that there's like a negative connotation relating to that word consequences. Like there's like what are the consequences of this action? What are the consequences of this action? And in your first one, so because we were writing down our 10 truths or whatever this week, and I've had to change some of the wording and some of the things that I wrote down. And one of the first things I wrote was, I think it was a man. It's a man who is not focused on the ultimate. Here, I can like pull it up really quick. A person who forgets his ultimate goals will always be a slave to his immediate desires. And it ties in because consequences scare people. The idea of consequences terrifies the fuck out of people. And so for your first one, talking about like faith and just the action after having the ideas and whatnot, I would change the consequences to results. Like instead of consequences from fear, you get results. Like the truth is, when you take action on faith, what comes after, yes, we view them as like the end thing that happens. Whereas like fear, if we act on fear, let's be honest, there are consequences. Like that's a consequence that happens. It's something that's like negative. Whereas like when you act on faith, it's a result. It's like, I wanted this result. This is what I truly wanted. So I love this, and I love that you're writing about this. That would be the only word that I would like change in that is results.
Like I understand completely,
Mm.
but I don't know. I have to finish my book and you'll have to read it. I don't want to
Yeah.
talk too much about it because it's the beauty
Yeah.
of the book. But the book literally is going to be called, I think, The Consequence.
Oh
and
shit.
it's the whole concept behind it is basically that is in itself is we fear consequences because a lot of because the whole concept of my book is you can't control your consequences. Essentially, they're bound to all these actions you take and the consequences. And in my book, I talk of results as the immediate result of your actions. Like if I don't know, if I work out for a period of time, I'm gonna get strong. As in the consequences, I refer more to a long-term state of mind, more to say, type of deal. So I don't know. I understand, and maybe I will change that, but that's why I put that. Is just my whole concept of my book is, and I think that's what will make it stand out too. Is just basically changing the whole conceptualization of consequence in that word.
Yeah.
But
I like that.
I get that, and it definitely can be. I mean, anyone who reads that right off the bat is just it's a little misunderstanding. So
Talking about fears in general and them governing our lives, there was something that I actually wanted to talk to you about. And so one of the truths that I wrote on there is something that I like strongly have stood by for the last year. And I'm like, how can I implement this idea consistently? And I may reword this, but as I have it worded now, it is, as a man, it is my divine duty to consistently aim at becoming the strongest, wisest, wealthiest, and most powerful man to be born from my bloodline. And that doesn't mean that like you shouldn't shut down like your brothers and your father and the people around you from attaining the same goal. As a man, it is your responsibility to continually try to improve. and continually try to like be better. And I saw this quote the other day, and I'll probably butcher it, but it is, if any man has achieved it, you must view that thing within your grasp. So no matter what the achievement is of any man in history, it is within your grasp to have. And for the last little while, I'm like, I can learn anything, but there's like daunting fears in the front of a lot of the things that like, oh, I wish I had this skill. And so growing up, my brother learned programming when he was like 9 years old. And he's one of the smartest people I've ever met in my life. And it's funny because whenever I get on Facebook, he'll create these like thought experiments and people will engage. People will really try to engage. And sometimes it's just like really funny to see people try to tear it down. And my brother's like, well, here's like my thought process on it. And this is why this works. And a lot of people will try to throw like religion at him or just a lot of different things. And he's like, oh, this is just a thought experiment. Like, and there's a lot of people that get really angry. And my brother's very structured. He's very, very intelligent. He doesn't get super emotional on these things. He's like, this is just how I view this thing. And I've always seen him as an incredibly intelligent person. And when it comes to coding, whenever I've needed help with something, when it comes to coding, I'll just like throw it at him and I'll be like, you know this, I don't know this stuff. Like, can you help me? And right now he's working on his own projects. He's got a team of coders and programmers that he operates and has them do like select work and whatnot. And so his time is very occupied with the company he's running of coders. And so when I try to take his time for coding, I know that he can help when he can, but a lot of times he is very busy. And so with my last website that I was working on, I was like, I'm struggling with this. I can't get this button to work. And I tried hitting him up and he was like, well, like, let's go into the actual like code of it and see what's going on with the button. And he helped me dissect it for a few hours and like, I couldn't get it. And he was really busy at the time. He's like, I'm going to try to help you, but just understand like my intention's over here. And I'm like, that's totally okay, dude. Like, help me when you can, if, whenever you can like answer this. And so I was trying to get his attention for the thing. And like, he was very, very busy at the time. And it was completely understandable. And I was getting really frustrated at my own work. I was like, God, like, I don't know what I'm doing. And I was really frustrated and really upset. And I've had this thing play in my head. It's like, you can do anything. You can learn any skill with 20 hours of focused work. And I'm like, coding is terrifying. Coding is terrifying. And so about 3 weeks ago, I started thinking about this. And I'm like, with any skill I want to learn, I can get good at that thing with 20 hours of focused work. I can get good at the thing with 20 hours of focused work. And in my family, I go, oh, my father's the businessman, my brother's the coder, like I'm the fitness guru, whatever. And so I think that we all have our areas or whatever. But this quote kept coming through my head. It's like, it is my divine duty to become as wise, as strong and as wealthy and like as powerful as I possibly can as a man. And that wise part just kept hitting me. And I'm like, I can learn anything with 20 hours. And so about 2 weeks, I was like, fuck it. I'm just going to try. I realized that I could learn anything with 20 hours. And even though like my brother is the coder, like he's the coder of the family, I'm like, I might be able to learn this. And in my head, anytime I looked at code when we were like working on the website or whatever, I was looking at all the liquid and everything of it. And I was just like, this is fucking terrifying. Dana, what am I looking at? And he's like, well, like that's the function you need right there. And you need to change it of this like button. And I was like, I don't fucking get this. And then, yeah, so 2 weeks ago, I was just like, fuck it. Let's just do it. Let's just try. 20 hours, I'm just going to designate 20 hours to code. And I asked my brother, I'm like, what's the code that I should start with? And he was like, Python. And I was like, all right, fuck it. I got into W3 Schools and I just started executing. I was like, I'm just going to devote any amount of time, 15 minutes plus a day. The last 2 weeks, I put 20 hours into Python and I've learned Python. And I'm like, fuck. Like I finally finished the W3 Schools. I downloaded this other app. I think it was called like Solo Learn. So that is what it's called. It's exactly like Duolingo where you just like, you go through the courses. They give you a 14-day free trial. And I blasted through their Python developers course in 8 days. And I was like, fuck. So I finished the W3 Schools course. I finished the Solo Learn course. And I would say, I'm not like professional. I'm not like the best or anything, but I do feel confident with Python now. And I was just like, I finished the W3 schools, finished the solo learn, and I was sitting there, and I was genuinely fucking pissed. And I'm like, what have I been doing with my time? Like, if I could learn Python in 2 weeks or less, I could have done it in less if I had more time available. But with work and everything, I didn't. And so, like, I learned at work on my lunch. I would learn in the morning at 4 a.m. So I'd wake up at 4 a.m. I'd learn coding for 30 minutes, get ready for work and everything, go to work, come home from work, do coding for another 30 minutes. And like in bed, I would do the solo learn before passing out. And did this all in 2 weeks. And then I was like, I looked up the average income for Python developers. Do you know what it is?
Wow.
$68 an hour on average. That's not the high end. That's average. And I was like, I just learned a skill that could pay me $68 an hour, and I did it in 20 hours. Like, that's all it takes to improve yourself is 20 hours of focused study. And I was just mad. I'm like, what the fuck have I been doing? And like, even though my brother knows all of these other scripting languages, like I told him, I was like, because I didn't want to tell him until I was done. Because I am one of those people that if I tell people while I'm doing the thing, I personally lose motivation. Because I get the dopamine high of doing the thing without actually doing the thing. And so I end up stop doing the thing. And so I was like, I'm just going to tell him when I'm done. So I'm like studying, finished everything. And I was like, all right, Daniel, I've learned Python. It was incredibly difficult. I love it now. And he was like, oh my God. And I was like, and so now I'm like going to be working with Raspberry Pi. I'm going to be working on a couple of little projects. But I realized that there's so much time in the week that I just give to social media, give to like streaming services of watching TV just to like wind down or whatever. And I'm like, we waste so much time in our lives that we could be attaining skills that increase the value of our time. Like now, yes, I'm going to continue with like the job and the work that I'm doing now, but a lot of coders code on their free time. So they'll get jobs where they could just work in the morning or on the weekends or whatever, and it's all work at your own pace essentially. They obviously have deadlines or whatever, but I've looked at a couple of jobs and I'm like, and they all pay $60+ an hour. And I'm like, fuck, I could have done this years ago. Why didn't I do it? And the one thing standing in front of me for the last 15+ years, I'd say like 10 years, was fear. It's like, my brother's the coder. I don't know how to code. I couldn't learn this. It's too hard. And then I fucking 2 weeks, I learned a whole language. And I was like, damn, it took me this long to just execute. So the person standing at the top of the cliff jump, like imagine them standing there for 10 years, not jumping. Like that was me in front of code. And it just blows my mind because the moment you actually take action and just do the fucking thing, you can get something, like an experience, like a knowledge set that throws you violently in the direction that you want to go. But it's like that fear that stands in front of us that just makes us wither away and takes from us. Like it genuinely robs us of our potential. And that is fucking terrifying. It's the whole execution process is just, it's 5 seconds of just like, fuck it, I'll try. Like, I'll try. I'll put in the 20 hours. If I can waste my time 20 hours on social media, why not waste 20 hours trying to learn code? Fuck it. Like, worst that could happen, I don't figure any of it out.
I like how you put it. It's just you can look at any man ever and anything attained by any man ever. Why can't you achieve that thing?
Mm-hmm.
And it bothers me because there's a lot of people that doubt that, and they essentially really fear it because they're like, I can't achieve that. That man, he just had luck. Things, whether he was born into wealth or was born in the right place to do it, he achieved that. But if you have the faith that I can do that, or more importantly, I will do that, it will drag you in that direction. But honestly, this comes into mind, like a big thought that's been on my mind is just the whole concept of how many hours you are improving in the day. And I think of like, there was times where I would spend multiple hours a day improving, but I would get worn out. And so think about the whole 20 20-hour thing, and I believe that, but it's just like, how many hours are you actually going to focus? You
Hmm.
know, even if you were to give an hour a day, which I believe an hour a day is a focused work, is quite a lot. That's 20 days, almost 3 weeks. So in my head, it's just so naturally in this day and age, like when we're not focusing, how easily it is just to be distracted with something that's gonna waste our time. I've just been trying to think of like, so obviously we can't be grinding 24/7, right? We can't be
Correct.
learning. But what can be done in between that isn't draining you? You know what I mean?
Hmm.
I'm trying to figure that out. Like, what is something that's a nice pastime or a nice break, but you're not going to be scrolling on social media and essentially, uh, in the words of outwitting the devil, I mean, letting the devil take control over your mind and drag you in the direction he wants to drag you in. And that's been bothering me. It's just because it's so natural and easy for, I think, anyone just to, like, when you're not actively pursuing something and which you can't do it 24/7, it's just like, where is the in between? Can I like put my mind to in those breaks? It's been, I don't know. What do you think?
So I agree with you that it's hard to focus 20, like I couldn't sit down. Like, so I say I work like 8 or 9 hours and then I come home after work and I'm fucking exhausted. And like, I couldn't sit there for 4 hours and just study straight for 4 hours. And so I would have bursts of motivation. And the way I did this was, it's my Python notebook. All I did was when I sat down, put my hand to the stone is what I call it, is when I do the work. The moment I started, I would pull out my phone and I would press start on my stopwatch. And I would just go until I got to a point where like I wasn't getting anything. I'm like, wait, I don't understand this Lambda function or defining functions. Like this is starting to get a little difficult. I want to go eat or I want to go do something else just to do something else. I would stop my stopwatch and I'm like, 35 minutes. And I would write down the 35 minutes. That's what I did. And when I got the motivation again to sit and put my hand to the stone and let's try again and get into, okay, defining functions, creating functions. We have to create an argument. Okay, let's go. And the moment I started again, I would start the stopwatch. And 15 minutes, I figured it out. Okay, fucking finally. And I'm like, I want to go make coffee or do something else, or I want to go to the gym. Stop. And I add the 15 minutes to my list. And I just like, okay, 35 minutes started. I did another 15 minutes later. And I just added the time up. And if I got to a point where like I wasn't learning anything and I was staring at something, just staring at this page on W3 Schools, and I'm like, fuck, like, stop the time. I'm no longer learning. I'm not getting anything. Step away. And that's just what I did. It was just like start, stop, start, stop, start, stop. And in the course of 2 weeks, I finished 20 hours. And I finished the W3 Schools in 16 hours and I think like 45 minutes. And I was like, fuck. And I had started the solo learn a couple of like, so the first weekend I started the solo learn. It's like, you get a 14-day free trial. And I was like, let's do the Python developers course. So I did that and I just blasted through it. And I was like, fuck. And I did it alongside of the, because I got halfway through through the W3 Schools, and that's when I started the solo learn. And the solo learn goes through like the first, like it starts essentially in the same order. And so like I was able to blast through the majority of the solo learn within like the first couple of days. And I was like, fuck man, like we're almost done. And it was like really motivating. And you do just get these bursts of motivation. And I think that comes down to those 5 seconds of just like, let's take action. Every time you get that motivation, it's like, let's just fucking take action. Like, let's see if we can just get the thing. Because I do agree, like, there are times when, like, I'm like, all right, I just want to watch, like, Netflix now. I want to watch TED or something, just, like, rewind or unwind. And that's okay. That is completely okay. It's just, like I said, a person who does not remember his ultimate will always be a slave to his immediate desires. Like, he's always going to be, like, if we let our immediate desire, like, if we don't remember what we want. Because, like, for me, I knew that if I talked about it too much, if I told other people that I was doing this thing, I would lose my motivation. And it would just be robbed from me. And so I wouldn't have the action. And so I'm like, all right, don't tell anybody. Just when it comes, do the thing. And so, like, the motivation would come and I'd be like, get to my desk and I just start doing. Because you have to find out how you operate. And if For some people, telling other people motivates them even more. Like, I want to work out, I want to do this, this, this. People are like, yeah, do that fucking thing. And they're like, yeah, I'm going to go work out. And then they go to the gym and do the thing. And so talking about it motivates them. Whereas me, if I talk about it too much, I'll lose motivation. Unless it's working out. It's completely opposite. If I talk about working out too much, I'm like, all right, time to start trying shit.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm just trying to. I don't know. Like, think about it. The 20-hour thing. That's what I did with my NASM.
Mm.
And it's crazy to think because, you know, with my other things I'm working on right now, it's kind of hard to grind on them, essentially, so to say.
Mhm.
But the NASM, maybe that's where goals come into play, because the NASM is just like, I'm going to get this whole thing done this week.
Mm.
And because I made that goal essentially 5 hours a day for 4 days, I would say that I grinded that out. And I don't know, maybe that's where goals have come into play. Like, if I have a what do you call it, a SMART goal, you know, a specific goal on a specific area that you're going, and maybe it allows you to really push to get that. But I think nowadays, definitely, like, our focus, I think, is to train.
Mhm.
And with the amount of dopamine receptors that are just fried in each and every one of us, I think it's hard for the average individual just to focus on something.
Mhm.
And I know there's several books on it, but it's just like, can you sit down and can you put 5 hours of work a day, like hard work, you know, focus into something? I think it's extremely hard for any individual.
I think a lot of it comes down to reward. Like we talk about the dopamine. Dopamine's core purpose is to reward us for whatever we're doing. And so like when you think of social media, it triggers that reward section of the brain, gives you that dopamine. You think about like watching Netflix or whatever, it triggers that reward section of the brain. And so with me personally, I have to verbally reward myself when I'm doing something that I know I should be doing. And so when I was coding, I would get the 35 minutes in and I would look at that 35, I would add it to like whatever I had. So say it was like 12 hours, I added it. I'm like, all right, 12 hours and 35 minutes. Good job, Tanner. You put in hard work. I'm proud of you. And I would literally say that out loud. After I added it up, I'd look at the 12 hours and be like, Tanner, I'm so proud of you. You put in the time. Like, good job. And it triggers that reward section of the brain. It's like, ooh, I like that feeling. Like, I get that reward. And if you don't reward yourself, you won't want to continue the thing. You won't want to continue doing the thing. So put the 12 hours, and if you look at like, okay, only 35 minutes, and you say that, only 35 minutes, oh, man, it's so much further away still. Like, you're not giving yourself a reward to continue doing the thing. You're like, I've still got so much more time to do, like, to complete this thing. Oh man, there's this many more sections to do. Like, you're not rewarding yourself. You're giving yourself a fear, whereas you're like, I did this much. I'm so excited and I'm so proud of myself. Good job, Tanner. Like, you want to do it again. You're like, I want that little, like, hit of dopamine again. So I go do something else. And then, you know, Kaylee's like, oh, like, let's have dinner. And I'm like, give me like 15 more minutes. Like, I just do 15 more minutes of like study. And I'm like, good job, Tanner. Like, you fucking did it today, man. You put in like a good amount of time. And I would give myself that verbal reward. And it's just this personal celebration. And you get that same trigger. And so then when I was watching Netflix or scrolling, the reward wasn't just great. I'm like scrolling and I'm like, and then I kind of feel like shit for scrolling for like 30 minutes. I'm like, man, I could have been fucking coding. Are you kidding me? And I don't feel as good. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. I want to code now. Like, I want to get that reward at the end of it. And so you have to reward yourself. You have to trigger that reward section of the brain. For some people, I knew this girl that would work for extended periods of time. And she worked really hard. And she would reward herself with candy. She would literally just like gummy worms. Like 3 hours into work, she'd munch on some gummy worms. And it triggers that reward section. She's like, I want to work some more. And she would work another like 3 hours. You have to figure out how to reward yourself in the action of doing the thing. I think that's important.
I think it comes down to finding where your reward is, because I'm sure, you know, after you know, finish your 20 hours of the coding, I'm sure that was pretty satisfying. I mean, the same thing for me and my NASM, dude. Accomplishing that, especially, you know, in the time that I did, is extremely satisfying. And so I think it comes down to that. I don't really believe in physical rewards. I don't know if I necessarily like, even when it comes to children, I don't know if I necessarily believe in it yet. I really believe in teaching yourself, or even when it comes to children, teaching the children how to recognize uh, basically how to achieve their own dopamine.
Mhm.
And it kind of hit my head how addictions and habits are basically similar in the way that you're pursuing that high again, and
Mhm.
in both the aspects. But the difference with the habit is you're going to get that high again. As
Mhm.
in the dopamine, you're never going to get that high as in the first high type of deal, as in the addiction. And so, I don't know, just applying it to like, in my music, it is awesome when I create something really cool. And so I think if I keep that in mind and I keep pursuing that, it's constant will to keep that drive going. And as in reading, like, it's really satisfying to me to like conceptualize an idea, or mold an idea into something even better. And so that's a high that I really enjoy. And so that's something that keeps me high in reading. And so I think any area in life that you want to improve, it's really important to find out where you are satisfied, what you love in that, and then keep pursuing that. And I think that's one important factor of drive, is just keep pursuing that high, and that will keep you going and grinding.
Mm. The reward section of the brain is very interesting because society as a whole has learned how to hijack it and bang that button over and over to get them to do what they want you to do. And we're all victims in a sense. I don't like using that word, but in a sense, we're all kind of victims of the structure of society and how it is molding us currently. And in Outwitting the Devil, he's very forward about it. It's like the way society functions is not optimal to like your long-term goals and the things that, like he said, 98% of people are drifting. If you look at society and you're like, okay, 98% of these motherfuckers are drifting. Like 98% of what's being presented to me is horseshit. If you can understand that, like the majority of what's coming your direction is meant to get you to drift, to look away from your goals, to just sit there and lounge. And I have a friend in Idaho. It was really sad because before I left, I tried to hang out with this friend quite a bit, just because like I was leaving, and I was like, I want to see this person for a while before I go. And when we were younger, he was incredibly creative. He was very, very creative. We would just do stuff and just build things and just go out and just do the thing. And for the years previous to me leaving, all he wanted to do when he get off work was play Fortnite. All he wanted to do, just nonstop Fortnite. And I would come over and I'd be like, dude, I'm leaving in 2 months. Like, let's hang out. And he'd be like, yeah, let's play some Fortnite. And I'm like, don't get me wrong. I like playing a game every now and then. Like, it's fun. I enjoy it every so often. The time's right. Let's play a game. But every day, he's like, let's play Fortnite. Anytime I'd come over, he'd be like, oh, I want to play Fortnite. I finally asked him, like, dude, like, let's do something else. And he's like, well, I work all day. Like, I just want to, like, unwind and smoke weed and, play Fortnite after work. And, like, I deserve my, like, time to chill. And I'm like, it's still an input. Like, you're still just putting shit in. Like, you could put anything else in. Fitness, like, we go to the gym and get some good input. Like, we could go outside and, like, build something and kind of put some input. But all he wanted to do was play Fortnite. And it was incredibly, like, boring to me. Because I'm like, dude, like, I leave very soon, and, like, this is all I've seen you do for years. And I love him tremendously. Love him so much. He's been a good friend for a long time. But I don't have any good memories of the 2 years previous to me leaving. Like, there was no fun memories anymore. The entire 2 years before I left, because all he wanted to do was just play video games. And I was just like, this isn't fun. And that idea of like, I deserve a perpetual mindless reward for the entire time after work hurt my soul. I was like, I don't want that. I don't want to be that. I don't want to be that person that when I get off of whatever I'm required to do to like pay the bills or whatever, that I just mindlessly input into like whatever structure is presented to me and society structure that is given to me. Because like, let's be honest, Fortnite's free. And if we look at a lot of the shit that's free nowadays, some of it's not really the best input. It may be fun to engage in sometimes, that's okay. But I think if it governs your day every day after work, you're getting nothing else out of life. And so a lot of the structure that we have now, if we understand that 98% of it is meant to cause us to drift, while 98% of what's being presented to us is free or completely available, or readily available, easily accessible. When we talk about when you walk into a grocery store and the first thing you see is candy, breads, like stuff that's not really optimal for longevity. Okay, this isn't good for me. And you try to get to the healthy shit, it's hard to get to the healthy shit. It's easier to find out what to target and what to attack in life. And I don't know, maybe I shouldn't use the word attack, but I looked at that friendship and I was like, love that person, but I'll probably just not talk to that person anymore. Not in a mean way, it's just like they're after immediate reward after everything's done of what they're supposed to do in the day, and there's no other growth that I'm seeing happen, and it doesn't benefit either of us. And so I'm not going to pursue that friendship anymore. And I don't talk to that person anymore. Whereas like you and I, we are constant creative, like let's just go, let's build, let's keep going. And it's like that is incredibly rewarding to me. And I've continually fed that mentality. We've continually fed that mentality. And I think it's important to focus on those relationships. Focus on like, where's the mindless input? Where's the good input? Where's the input that's actually pushing me? Oh, one sec.
Well, honestly, I enjoy a good video game, but there's times where people would they'll trash talk you and say how much better they are than you, and I shouldn't say it, but I always have the comebacks like, congratulations, write that on your tombstone, you're good at a video game. That's your accomplishment in life. And it's honestly extremely sad because, these guys that put so many hours into these video games is just like, where do they have any success in life? Like, do they have any other hobbies, any other things that are actually going to add value to themselves and others? Like, I hope so. But sadly, I don't know. I don't know if they do. And, I like to think of, when I was a kid, there would be times where I like to think of times where like I didn't want to wake up, like I wanted to sleep in, and then times where I was anxious to wake up. And I just like to compare it because, like, for example, like when I was a kid in Disneyland, I didn't sleep in. I woke up as early as I could. Or on Christmas, you didn't sleep in. You woke up as early as you could. You had something to look forward to. And I think that's the way we need to, sculpt our lives, is to where we don't want to sleep in, so to say. We don't want to play these video games. We don't want to scroll on social media because there's so much more better things. We know where the real dopamine is. We know where the real satisfaction is. And that's in pursuing these true successes, the successes in the mind, the successes that bring you, and others happiness. And I like that analogy because it's just cool to think about. Imagine if every day your alarm rings at like 4 a.m. and you're not tired. I don't know if you've ever thought about like on Christmas, when you're in Disneyland, you wake up at 5 a.m. You're not tired. You're anxious and you're ready and you want to get going. And that's the kind of life I want to live. It's just, I don't want to dive into these small dopamine hits. I want to have these huge things to look forward to, excited every single day to pursue something, because it's the dream and that's where my true satisfaction is. And so
what you're talking about is giving yourself something to look forward to, doing. And like a lot of people, they make it like a mindless action, like playing video games and scrolling and watching TV. Like, I can't wait to get off work to watch TV. Whereas like, if it was like, I can't wait to wake up early to learn this skill so I can like maximize my value. Like, give yourself something to look forward to, then instead of letting society giving you something to look forward to. Because people are like, oh, I'm so excited for the government to give us our stimulus or whatever. That's not something to be excited to look forward to. Like, give yourself something real to look forward to. Like, and I think I completely agree with you. Like, if you actually give yourself the things or the goals or the ultimate goal, you'll be a slave to the immediate like desire. Like if you don't give yourself an ultimate goal, like you and your NASA, like ultimate goal, finish this in a week, you were probably super fucking pumped to like blast through it. You were excited to wake up and get started. You were excited to like start moving on this course because it was an ultimate goal and you could remember that goal every day. It's like, I'm excited to get this done, to finish this and be like, I'm NASA certified now. Whereas like if you don't have the ultimate goal, what are you a slave to? Whatever immediate desire is readily available or free. It's like you will always be a slave to that if you don't have an ultimate goal in mind. So for me, it was like coding. I can't fucking wait to get this done. And so like TV and everything else was like boring. I'm like, I don't want to like, yeah, it's nice to like unwind, but I really want to get this. Like, I really want to learn this because it's exciting. Like I can finally know how to code and that idea of adding that value. Whereas like, let's be honest, when we're watching Netflix, when we're like scrolling, we're not adding a shit ton of value. We're not adding any value. We're just like input. It's nice, I guess. It's fun. But is there any like growth in value? Like NASA, that's huge, dude. Like that's fucking massive. That's so much intellectual value that I personally believe everybody needs. Everybody in this nation needs that course. And to be able to like inject that entire thing within a week, number one, is fucking unheard of. But number two, like that's an incredible amount of value that you get to add onto yourself. Your goals, like your fitness, like how much value did that add into your fitness and your actual like attainment of your fitness goals? A shit ton. Like so much. And that's the same thing with me. Like when I got my NASM, I was like, oh, there's so much editing I need to do on my workouts and my diet. Like there's so much that I need to change. And it increased the value of what I was doing. Like now it's not so aimless. Now I have an actual structure and outline. There's a lot of what people do. They don't have a structure. They have no outline and they're a slave to whatever immediately is available. I think that's pretty fucking sad.
Well, I like how you said, all these things are such easy access, all these free video games and, these cheap sugar, sweets and everything is just nothing valuable is cheap. And I think when it comes to finding, real satisfaction and happiness is just you got to build something, essentially going creativity. You need to work towards something. You need to put 20 hours, of hard focus into something. And that's actually going to bring you something worthwhile. As in, if not, you're just going to be pursuing these little things and they're not going to make you happy and they're going to build something and it's not going to be a good build. You rather put this hard focus into something like worthwhile, that's exciting, towards something you want to build.
That's why it's good to have an ultimate goal. Which is why, like, these podcasts that we do, and like even the times where we had 5+ goals every week, it was good to have because at least we had something to focus on and look forward to. Like, oh, at least I have like for you it's like maybe music that week. At least I have music, or maybe it's a book I'm reading, or maybe it's whatever it is. It gives you something to look forward to instead of like the immediate. You're still continually growing. And even now we have the single like goals for the week. We still have an ultimate goal that we want to meet. Whereas if we don't have those, we'll just be a slave to whatever is immediately available. And the dopamine, the rush. Yeah. Well, speaking of goals, we should probably go over them for this next week.
Yeah.
So what was yours this last week?
It was compliment one person.
Mm-hmm. Did you execute?
I did so. Complimented one person.
Good.
Honestly, this is a big task for me in a big area of my life that I want to improve. So I'm literally going to continue that goal.
Continue.
And I would honestly augment it, but I don't want to overwhelm myself. I want to take it slow and just keep on pushing past these fears and slowly break these barriers that they've built in my life. So I'm going to continue that goal and compliment another person this week.
Okay. Let's see. Mine was just working out, getting back into the routine of doing something. I know mine was like doing it every day, which honestly I failed at. Like I was working so much that just didn't have the freaking time to like work out as much. And so for me, I think it would just be my goal this week would be building a structure to what I want to attack. Because since I am working an incredible amount of hours, I think I should go back to full body workouts at least 3 days a week because I can maximize my input in my fitness. So that's all I'm going to do is just find the 3 days that I can lift, which will probably be Saturday, Sunday, maybe Friday, and get back into full body lifts for those days because I want to put on weight. I want to put on a lot of weight now. So,
All right.
that concludes episode 23.
23, I think.
Yeah, damn,
23.
we're moving. That's so crazy. 2 minutes to
Yeah.
life. We'll see you guys next week.